In the dead of winter, 1959, 9 skilled hikers ventured into the frozen wilds of the Ural Mountains, deep within the heart of Soviet Russia. They were young, vibrant, and full of dreams, documenting their ambitious expedition with journals and film. But from this journey into the icy unknown, none of them ever came back. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a true mystery that remains one of the most chilling and perplexing tragedies of the modern era. What really happened to these 9 souls on that fateful night? Our story begins near a foreboding peak named Kolatsyakl, a name that, in the local Mansi language, ominously translates to Dead Mountain. The group, led by the experienced 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, was made up of students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute. They were not novices. They were seasoned trekkers, certified for a Grade 3 expedition, the highest difficulty rating at the time. Their goal was to reach Mount Otorten, another peak about 10 kilometers north of where their final camp would be found. Looking at their photographs and reading their journal entries from the early days of the trip, you see nothing but youthful optimism. Their journey was meticulously documented. They carried cameras, and the images they captured paint a vivid picture of their final days. Warm tones of friendship and camaraderie fill these early scenes. But as they pushed deeper into the wilderness, the mood began to change. The weather, notoriously brutal in the Urals, started to turn against them. The wind grew violent, and a storm began to build on the horizon. On the night of February 1st, they set up their tent on the slopes of Kolatsyakl. This decision itself was a puzzle. They were only about a mile from the safety of the tree line, which would have offered shelter from the punishing elements. Why camp on an exposed open slope? It was their last night on Earth. What happened next is a vortex of terror and confusion, pieced together from the chilling evidence left behind. Imagine their tent, a faint beacon of warmth glowing against a ferocious blizzard. Then suddenly, chaos. For reasons unknown, something made the hikers panic so intensely that they slashed their tent open from the inside, desperately trying to escape. They fled into the sub-zero darkness, with temperatures plunging to -30 degrees Celsius. When rescue teams finally reached the site weeks later, on February 26th, they were met with a scene of utter horror. The tent was abandoned, ripped from within. All the group's belongings, warm clothing, food, and most tellingly their boots, were left behind. The investigators were stunned. Why would experienced hikers run out into a deadly blizzard barefoot and inadequately dressed? The search party followed a trail of scattered footprints leading down the slope toward the forest. What they discovered next only deepened the mystery. The first 2 bodies, Yuri Krivonyshenko and Yuri Doroshenko, were found under a large cedar tree about a mile from the tent. They were dressed only in their underwear. Nearby were the remains of a small fire. The branches of the cedar tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting someone had tried to climb it, perhaps to get a better view or to escape from something. 3 more bodies were found between the cedar tree and the tent: Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin. Their positions suggested they were desperately trying to return to the camp. They were frozen solid, their faces etched with a final, silent terror. It took another 2 months for the remaining 4 hikers to be discovered, buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine deeper in the woods. And it is here that the mystery takes its darkest turn. Nicolas Thibault Brignoles had suffered a fatal skull fracture. Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov had sustained catastrophic chest injuries, fractures so severe they were comparable to the force of a high-speed car crash. Yet, bafflingly, there were no external signs of a struggle or impact on their bodies. Most disturbing of all, Lyudmila was missing her tongue, eyes, and parts of her face. Medical examiners concluded that 6 of the hikers died of hypothermia, but the massive internal injuries of the other 3 could not be explained by the elements. Soviet investigators officially closed the case, vaguely attributing the deaths to a compelling natural force. For decades, the files were classified, fueling a storm of speculation. So, what was this compelling natural force? Let's explore the unsettling theories. The most widely accepted scientific explanation is an avalanche. Proponents of this theory suggest a slab avalanche struck the tent, causing the initial panic and some of the internal injuries. The hikers, fearing a second, larger avalanche, would have fled their tent in a hurry. Once outside and disoriented by the storm, hypothermia would have set in quickly, leading to paradoxical undressing, a strange phenomenon where victims of extreme cold feel a sense of burning heat and remove their clothes. However, critics point out that the campsite showed no typical signs of an avalanche, and the experienced Dyatlov would have known better than to camp in an avalanche-prone area. Another prominent theory involves a secret military experiment gone wrong. The area was known for Soviet weapons testing. Could the hikers have stumbled upon something they weren't supposed to see? This theory suggests they were either directly targeted or were collateral damage. Reports of strange orange spheres or lights in the sky on the night of the incident, witnessed by other campers miles away, lend some credibility to this idea. The radioactive traces found on some of the hikers' clothing could also point to a military connection, though the levels were relatively low. Then there's the theory of infrasound. This hypothesis posits that a rare weather phenomenon, called a Kármán vortex street, could have been generated by wind moving over the mountain, creating low-frequency sound waves. Infrasound is inaudible to the human ear, but can induce intense feelings of panic, nausea, and dread, which might explain the group's irrational flight from the tent. Of course, where there is mystery, there are more exotic theories. Some have suggested an encounter with an unknown creature, perhaps a yeti or mink, the Siberian equivalent of Bigfoot. Others look to the sky, proposing an alien encounter. The strange lights and severe unexplainable injuries fuel speculation that something not of this world was responsible for the tragedy. Finally, there is the theory of a KGB cover-up. Did the hikers witness a clandestine meeting or operation? Was one of them secretly working for a foreign agency? Semyon Zolotaryov, the oldest of the group, was a mysterious figure with tattoos not typical of the time, and some believe he had ties to Soviet intelligence. Perhaps a deal went wrong, and the scene was staged to look like a tragic accident. The missing tongue, in this context, could be a brutal message to silence someone. Despite a renewed investigation in 2019, which again concluded that an avalanche was the most likely culprit, the story refuses to rest. Too many questions remain. Why were the injuries so selective and bizarre? What caused the radiation? What were the mysterious lights in the sky? The mountain is silent, and the dead cannot speak. More than 60 years have passed, but the Dyatlov Pass incident continues to captivate and haunt us. It's a chilling reminder that even in our modern world, there are some places where nature holds dominion, and some mysteries that may never be solved. 9 lives lost. 9 families left without answers. Only questions, buried deep beneath the snow. The mountain still keeps its secrets, and the 9 who never returned still haunt the snow. If stories like this fascinate you, and you want to explore more haunting mysteries and unsolved legends that history tried to bury, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell.